Hello everybody, my name is Elijah. Welcome to 85 Studios. Welcome back everybody. This is the, would this be part number 6, I believe, of the interview with Linn from Kansas, who has lived in a house for 20 years, in a haunted house for 20 years, sorry, and has had multiple experiences in this house and actually a previous house with the spirits and the paranormal and the unexplained. Joining me now, before we do that, if you are interested in telling your story on 85 Studios YouTube, go ahead and go to Facebook, our Facebook page, facebook.com/85studios and the number 1, or hit us up on Twitter at 85 Studios YouTube and send us a direct message, and we will send you either we will send you a phone number to call, or we will call you if you leave your phone number for us to call, and we can do an interview with you. Leave a summary of your story, and if we like it, we'll give you a call back. Other than that, be sure to hit like on the video and hit subscribe, and leave us a comment down below letting us know what you think, or if you have anything that you want to comment down there, just try to be nice. Thank you. Joining us now from Kansas is Linn. Linn, are you there?
Yes, hello. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you? I'm sorry, I'm losing my mind. I'm tired. I'm trying to... Okay. I'm losing my mind.
I'm doing fine. Yeah,
it's either very early or very late. I don't know which. The sun is up now. That's probably a good thing. It came up. Okay.
Well, I was gonna say I think one of the hardest things when you're doing this kind of stuff and listening to people is, I think maybe sometimes it kind of gets to you too. I mean,
yeah, it does. It's one of those things where, especially if you've had previous experiences in the paranormal, you know that a lot of the things that the person that you're talking to is saying are things that have also happened to you at various points in your life, and actually some of the things that happened to me actually led up to me becoming who I am and doing what I do. It's kind of more or less, I wouldn't call the paranormal a hobby. It's paranormal research is more of less of an obsession, but more of a compulsion, I would say. But yeah, remembering where you left off,
if I remember correctly, I was discussing the fact that I had just gotten married. I'd met a man, and we'd gotten married, and one day I came home and he had said, this house is haunted.
I remember. Okay. Yep.
And
surprise!
Yeah, and he had started telling me about some of the experiences he had that particular day that told him something was really, the house was haunted. I mean, that was his words.
Yeah.
And telling me about, he was Native American and had lived on a reservation, and some of the things that they did to get rid of evil spirits or bad spirits. And I didn't really know a whole lot about Native American beliefs and religions. being married to him over time, he taught me a great deal. And I came to love the Native American culture and the religion of the particular tribe that he was a member of. And I found a lot of peace with them, much more than I ever had anything else that I had tried. Which, you know, I think, while at some point like I said, I still, if it wasn't for my faith and belief in God, I really don't know. Again, you know, I've said it several times that I would have survived it. But I think I never, you know, as time went on and things were still continuing, and I had tried Wicca and I had tried all of these other things, and things just really weren't calming down enough, like going away. I mean, things would happen a lot less. But I wanted it gone. I wanted it gone.
I don't blame you.
Well, so, like I said, my second husband was a very, very kind and loving, caring man. He had never been married. He'd never had children, and he was in his, you know, late 30s, and when he and I met, you know, I mean, we hit it off. We did. We hit it off. And I was really, really happy. I mean, I was really happy. And we had talked, you know, about the kids and stuff like that, and he was just jumping for joy, you know, because he was finally going to get to be a father, even if he wasn't a blood father. These children were going to be, you know, his sons as far as he was concerned, and my daughter was going to be his daughter as far as he was concerned. And yeah, he was seriously excited about that prospect. It was something that he had always wanted to be, and it just never had happened. And he was great with the kids. When we were dating, he'd come over and we'd get out the Monopoly games and pick up a big old bowl of chili or whatever else was on the menu, you know, and watch, you know, play the Monopoly and Sorry and all kinds of other games, and take off to the park and hang out together and do fun stuff together that way. And he talked to my sons about doing different stuff, fishing, hunting, things that the guys all like to do, and stuff that I had done with them. But, you know, I was still carrying on 2 jobs, so it didn't happen very often. And, you know, he just fit. He just absolutely fit. So we got married after dating for, let's see, I met him in 2000, late 2000, and we got married in 2003. And he had been living at the house for about, I mean, literally living at the house. Prior to that, he had not, it wasn't like he moved in and then we got married. He was living in his own home, and then we got married, and he moved his stuff in to my house. and it wasn't, but it might have been 2 months, but I don't think it was even really that long before, like I said, I came home from work and he was like, "Your house is haunted."
Your house is haunted.
Yeah. So, our relationship started out really, really good. But over time, I started noticing changes in him, and they were changes very similar to what my first husband had gone through. I started seeing quick temper and hot-headedness, and this look of like he didn't like or want to be around my kids, and he didn't seem to want to be around me, and as I was married to him for 7 years, and in that 7 years' time, I watched this amazing, wonderful man just become angry and scary at times. And finally it got to the point where I finally just told him, "You need to leave and don't come back. We're done. I can't deal with this." In that time period of marriage, he had started accusing me of being a demon, of being the devil, evil woman. He said that I was the reason and that I was the cause for when things would move in the house, or when there would be the noises, the banging, the doors opening and closing. That it was my fault, that I had somehow caused this. And I was getting scared. I was getting really, really scared. He had gotten to the point to where I had switched jobs. I finally found a better job, better paying job, but unfortunately it was shift work. But I figured that, my youngest son was about 7, 8 years old, and they would have their stepdad, he would have him home because his job kept him, his was a day job. And so I figured it would work out a lot better that way. There would pretty much almost always be someone home with him. And even if there wasn't someone home right away, there would be someone home shortly thereafter, when he got out of school. So, some of the things that when I was home, when I was home from, not working the midnight to 8 or 4 to midnight shifts, some of the things that I discovered was that he was not sleeping at night at all. And he would get irritated with me for not sleeping at night. He had started staying up all night. He started getting into this, we had gotten the internet, and I'd gotten a brand new computer, and he had started looking at this religious program. And he had started kicking into these religious Christian programs, and I mean hours and hours and hours of it. And I would say,
sounds like he was trying to maybe protect himself, possibly from something.
Yeah, it really was kind of like that. It was, but at the same time, I was still the evil demon woman for no reason. He started having arguments and collisions with my oldest son and with my middle son, as far as there was aggression, arguments, and things like that. And they never got physical, but it was close. It was kind of one of those things where I honestly felt like I was going to step in between them and take the blow before my son would, kind of thing. And I went back to really, really praying to God, really, really hard. Please, God, I don't know what's going on here. Are you, what's going on with?
Go ahead and.
So anyway, I was like, okay. So anyway, I was like, okay, please, God, what's going on with my husband? Is he developing some kind of mental illness that in the 2.5 to 3 years that I dated him, I never saw? Is there, what is going on with him? He kept getting worse and worse and worse, and I did go ahead and kick him out. He left and disappeared off on into the reservation somewhere. I've never seen or spoken to him since.
It's interesting that house seemed to take at least 2 people and basically turn them from relatively nice, gentlemen into these people that it changes them, it seemed like. And
yeah, there were times when I actually feared for my life. I really did. That was not my husband. That was not the man that I married. I knew his friends. I knew his family. They were friends of mine. Some of his family members had distantly married into distant relatives of my family. So, I mean, we weren't blood related, but like my great uncle's son married his great aunt, that kind of thing. So it wasn't, and I mean, he was a really good guy. Well, when things started going really south as far as our marriage and the way he was acting, some of the things that happened to me was I was no longer sleeping on the couch. I was actually sleeping in. We started out, my daughter had moved out, and we started out sleeping in that room. I cleared it out. I packed up stuff that was from my daughter, and made that room my room. And the reason why was because he did not like the master bedroom. He had an experience in there with the shower and that kind of stuff, and I think it really freaked him out. He didn't tell me the whole whatever. I have a feeling there was more to it, but whatever it was, he was like, I'm not staying in that room.
Mm-hmm.
So we used my daughter's bedroom since she had moved out, but he rarely ever slept in that room during the day or during the nighttime. He would stay up most of the night, and then he would go to sleep maybe 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, or in the morning, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And then he would get up around 7:30, get up and go to work. And he kept doing that, and that had kind of been my routine. Working shift work and not being used to it, I was actually a lot more tired than normal, so I was actually sleeping pretty decent most of the time. I was actually feeling a little more safer because I wasn't the only adult in the house dealing with this stuff. And I mean, I know that sounds really weird, but there was a security feeling there that I had. I can relate to that one as well. In general, when I'm around my brother Troy Boy, from 85 Studios, Troy Boy, I'm pretty much fearless. The only thing that I fear is for his safety, really, and I think it kind of equals out because he really is fearless as well, and his only real fear is for my safety. And I guess together we just kind of watch each other's backs, and I know how that goes. You got somebody that's got your back. Well, it was not only that, but I always had, kind of a fear that maybe because of what was happening to me and had been happening to me in that house, that maybe some of that was rubbing off on the kids. Some of that was rubbing off on the kids, and it was my fault, I still, even after going through all of that stuff, the different things, I still really, I really had a hard time accepting that the house was haunted. I really had a hard time.
Even after everything that happened to you in that house?
I think part of it was my spirituality, my faith in God was really starting to diminish. I was really struggling with that, and especially when I started seeing my husband changing. I was really struggling with that. I had stayed single and really not dated anyone and worked and raised my kids for 6 years, and then I turned around and I met this wonderful person, and things started going south really fairly quickly. Within a few months, I started noticing changes in him. Changes in his attitude, changes in his personality.
And you said you were dating him for 3 years or 4, like 3 years prior to that, and you never saw any kind of signs that he was hiding anything or anything like that in that time?
No. I mean, it not only was it that, it's like I said, I knew his family, because my family, part of my family, had married into his, so I knew some of them. I knew his friends. I knew quite a few of his friends. And they had become friends with me, and, prior to him and I ever dating or even thinking of going out on a date, they had talked to me about him. I'd had an interest, so I put some feelers out to people that I trusted, and anyway, everything came back positive. Everything came back positive. This was a good guy. This was a really, really good guy. So anyway, while all of this changing and my husband was going on, and between the arguing and fighting that was going on between my sons and him, I myself was still dealing with a lot of paranormal activity. I would be laying there in bed at night alone. He would be in the living room, and I would have things touching me, and I would have things, you know, making it almost impossible for me to sleep because of the things would be moving around in the room. And I was, my husband didn't like light on, so I was trying to get used to sleeping in the dark. And that was very, very difficult for me. But eventually, over time, I kind of started getting a little bit better accustomed to that. But I was kind of lonely, you know. I just gotten married, and my husband wasn't coming to the bed. There was no more the affection that he was having for me, the affectionate behavior. Even, you know, the hugs and the kisses even were starting to diminish. And then there was one night, it was like the last time that I slept in that room. I had something just start yanking at my covers. I mean, they were pulling them completely off of me, and there was this horrific smell.
A smell?
It smelled like something from the dead. It smelled like a dead, decaying, like a dead animal.
A lot of times, smells are an indication of something demonic. It can be.
Well, and I did. I really didn't know a whole lot about that kind of stuff. I still, I mean, there's a lot of information, and we did have the internet, but I hardly ever used it. Mostly because my husband had all these Christian things on there, and he was always watching that stuff. And honestly, he would get very upset with me if I touched the computer to change it off of anything else. Anyway, so I told him, I said, I'm going to start sleeping in the other bedroom. You can come in there if you want to sleep with me, or you can use the other bedroom. I don't care. But I'm not going to sleep in this room. By that time, my oldest son had moved out on his own, and my youngest son had taken over his bedroom. My middle son had gone off he'd actually graduated early from high school and was headed off to it was kind of like a pre-college, prep college program, because he was still kind of young to go to college. And this was a program that was designed to help young people like him to kind of adjust to college life instead of just throwing him in with, you know, these 18, 19-year-olds. He was still just barely 17.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that left 2 bedrooms open. And I'll never forget, one night I went in there to go to bed, and I had this horrific fear feeling in this room. And it was part of the reason why I had quit sleeping in that room in the first place. It was, and
was that the same
the
room
bathroom,
that you had laid down with your youngest and then heard those footsteps?
Yeah,
the second day?
Bedroom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the same room. And I had the bathroom light in the master bedroom turned on and the door slightly closed. Just open just a little crack so that there was a little bit of light coming through. And I heard a noise, and it was like something, again, like something was walking toward the bed, and I had my eyes closed. I was just ready to doze off, and I looked up, and there was a horrific looking creature looking right at me and walking toward the bed on my side of the bed.
Can you go into more detail about this creature?
Yeah. Its body was kind of like a human body. I couldn't tell whether it would be male or female. I mean, because it was almost shapeless, except that it had arms and legs. But as far as the shape goes, it didn't have any curvatures or any stockiness to it. It had a horrifying face that looked like it looked like a dead, bloated face that had been mutilated. I mean, you could kind of tell that it was human, but you weren't really positive because of the way it was so bloated and mutilated looking. And it had really, really matted looking hair. I mean, it looked like the hair was long, but it looked like it hadn't been combed, so it was kind of matted.
Yeah. Yikes.
And as I looked at it, because I mean, I was like, what, I think I was actually paralyzed in fear. I couldn't scream, I couldn't cry, I couldn't talk, I just froze.
That is a very bad feeling. Yeah.
And it stunk.
You try to scream, but nothing comes out, and you can't move. And smell. And
its bloated eyes were like poking out of its sockets a little bit, and it had this grin. The grin looked like these nasty, like gross looking teeth. And it got closer and closer to the bed, and I started praying. And I was praying and praying and praying. And I closed my eyes. And I just prayed. And I was waiting for it to touch me or to hurt me or to do something with it, and it didn't. And when I opened my eyes, it was gone. It's gone. But its body was like like bloated, nasty, bloated.
Now, about the smell that you said that you could smell it, was it the same or similar smell that you'd smelled in the other room, the other bedroom that you were sleeping in before? Or was it something different?
No, it was the same smell. It smelled like something dead, decaying. And, I got up to go into the living room, and I was like, you know, I don't really want to deal with him.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back into the room. I opened the bathroom door a little better, a little wider, so there was more light.
Mm-hmm.
And I said a prayer that nothing else would bother me through the night. And eventually, at some point in time, I don't know when, after laying there for quite a while, I woke up. Like I must have fallen asleep, and I woke up. I did not have to work that next day. Thank God.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't have made it. And when I woke up, he didn't have to work. He was actually sleeping next to me, which really surprised me. I got up and I was like, okay, you know, I'm one of the things that I also learned to do is I learned to start going out and doing exercise and, you know, de-stress kind of thing, you know. And I pulled on my shoes and my sweatpants and stuff and t-shirt and grabbed a cup of coffee and was sitting at the chair drinking a cup of coffee, and I looked over and there was a man standing there, a strange man. And he was very, very, I mean, there was no seeing through him. He was solid.
Huh.
He was an older man, about late 40s. He was wearing a checkered shirt. It was like maroon red and kind of an off-white and black, long sleeve, like a Western style shirt. And he was wearing a brown pants with that shirt, kind of a tannish brown color. He had black hair, short black hair. And he's standing in the living room, right in front of, just a few feet from the hallway door. And he says, "Nice day for a cup of coffee." Just as plain as day. "Nice day for a cup of coffee." And he turns around and he walks in the hallway.
Gentleman? Compared to what you experienced prior, anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's good to find a nice one once in a while, you know. Just saying.
And I'm serious. I dumped my coffee. I mean, it threw me so. I mean, because he was so real. I got up, walked into the hallway, like, who is this and where did he go?
Into the wall, to the great beyond.
And he was nowhere. I mean, he was nowhere.
Well, at least he was friendly. I mean, jeez.
Yeah. Yeah. And over the years, on occasion, I never told anyone. I mean, I never told anyone. I never talked to anyone about it, not even my kids. I had learned to keep things pretty much bottled up. I would basically bottle it up, and then I would go to work, and I would do my job, and I would go to the grocery store, and I throughout all of this stuff, I always try to keep things as normal as possible. You know, laundry's done on these days, homework's done every night, baths done, supper's on the table by certain times of the day, evenings. You know, because no matter what's going on in the house, you still have to do stuff. You know, you still have to go to work, you have to earn a living, you have to do all of the stuff that you normally do, no matter what's going on.
Go back to the nice gentleman with the cup of coffee. Folgers. Yes. I'll take that.
Over the years, though, like I said, I'd never said anything to anybody. My older son and my younger son, both, I found out later, had experienced very similar.
The guy with the coffee?
Very similar. Yeah, the guy. I mean, they described him to a T. Exactly what he looked like.
So, it's really weird that you never
see him again.
That you never saw him. It's really weird that you never saw him before you did the cleansing. I'm kind of almost wondering if maybe your new husband had maybe brought him in or attracted him somehow, or maybe he was a relative of his or something to that effect, or maybe a long-lost ancestor of yours who found you, or something to that effect.
I really don't know. It really made no sense to me. He showed up a total of what I found out to be about 4 different times. One of my sons, my youngest one, saw him twice, and I think my oldest one saw him once, and I had seen him once. And it was always the same thing. You know, a nice day for a cup of coffee, same statement.
It almost sounds like a residual haunting then.
And the whole thing is yeah, you're right. You know, I
saw him? Like every time was it in the same area, the same location?
Yeah. Walking in from the kitchen. See, I didn't see him walking from the kitchen. I just happened to look up and there was a man standing in the living room, and I had just come from the kitchen.
So it was a different
I had
location.
A cup of coffee in my hand.
You saw him in a different
and
location.
There was no one in there.
That might not be a residual haunting if you saw him in a different location than they did. I mean, it's possible, but
the one or the two said that they saw him walk in from the kitchen and stand in almost the same area where I had seen him, and then walk into the hallway in the same fashion. See, the reason why I probably didn't see him walking from the kitchen, I wasn't looking for him. I was actually looking down. I was putting on my shoes, and when I looked up, I was starting to take a sip of my coffee, and there's this man. I saw him standing there at pretty much out of peripheral view of my eye, and I looked over straight at him, and he was still there, and he was very solid. And very clearly, nice day for a cup of coffee. And then walked directly into the hallway, and where he went from there, I don't know.
Was he scary at all to you or your kids?
No.
Did he put off any kind of vibe?
It was surprising. You know, it was surprising because, I mean, if you're going to say maybe it was scary because, you know, he wasn't wasn't supposed to be a part of the house or the family. He was a total stranger. So there's a total stranger in my house, you know.
But as far as that negative vibe that you got, you didn't get that from him at all?
No. I got no negativity from him. I got nothing.
What
It was
an interesting thing to say. Nice day for a cup of coffee.
well, and it was just weird because I had just gone from the kitchen. I had a cup of coffee in my hand, and I was getting ready to take a sip of coffee.
Huh.
But when my son saw him, they were like, the one walked into the house. He'd just come back from school, and he opened up the door, and there was that man walking from the kitchen. And, you know, nice day for a cup of coffee. And my son was like, saw the man walk into the hallway, and he was like, okay, I'm not even going to deal with this. He turned around, shut the door, and left. It's like,
that sounds like something I would do. Okay, I'm done with this. Bye. Yes, yes, it is. It's a nice day for a cup of coffee, but not today, and I'm not doing all this. Nope.
Yeah,
I'm gone.
Yeah, okay. Well, because he knew he was the only one in the house. He was coming home from an empty house.
Yeah.
And then my youngest son, his experience was a little weirder. He said that he had come into the house from work, and he was about 16, 17 years old. He'd just gotten his first job. And he walked into the house. I was actually still at work. It was dark. And he said that the whole kitchen, when he looked up, the whole kitchen looked different. It didn't look like the same kitchen at all. It looked like it was, he described it as, it looked older.
Huh.
It looked, it had like this flowery powdered type wallpaper on it. It definitely was not my kitchen. And the cabinets, all the cabinets weren't there, and the sink was different. I mean, everything was different in that kitchen. And this man walked in from the kitchen into the living room, which he said the living room was pretty much the way it was normally. And tell him the same thing. And my son he was like, the heck with this, I'm done. I'm because that's how we started dealing with this kind of stuff. We just started leaving the house.
Yeah.
And he did. He shut the door, and then he opened it back up because he couldn't believe the kitchen. He was like, what in the world? And when he opened the door back up, the kitchen was normal, the man was gone, and everything was the same.
Wow. That's really weird.
So things were getting much weirder. I mean, we went from 1996 to 2000 and I think 8, with just pretty much the normal stuff that we'd gotten used to, with an occasional scary thing here and there.
Yeah.
To things were getting really weird. Things were getting really weird.
So more weird than scary at this point.
Weird, at times terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing like walking into your house and your whole kitchen
yeah.
that you've grown up seeing your whole life.
Oh my gosh,
gone.
I would be just... I think I'd be more in just complete shock and disarray that's crazy. Like, wow, how?
Yeah. Like I said, this happened in 2008. Some of the stuff, like me seeing that guy, that had happened like in 2006. That creature that happened the night before, 2006. Just... I
mean, at a certain point, I've kind of reached this point, I guess, in my life to where when I see something that's completely weird like that, I kind of, you know, I may do a double take, but I would be less scared unless it was physically attacking me in some way than just not even so much weirded out at this point.
Well, my son said that he was just kind of in shock and awe. I mean, it was kind of like, what just happened? But what was really odd is he didn't, I mean, it wasn't like when I came home he told me all about it and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
He kept it to himself for years.
Huh.
He kept it to himself for a long time, because it did freak him out. It really freaked him out. And he started getting more and more involved in school activities after school, coming home less and less. I mean, basically he'd go from school to school activities to work. And he would work as late as he possibly could.
To try to avoid going back to the usual. The unusual usual.
But one day he called me into his room, and he had taken my oldest son's bedroom, and there was a south window, a small south window in that bedroom, and then the other windows faced, would have faced west.
West?
And yeah, there was a window that faced west on the west wall, and then a window that faced south on the south wall. And he called me into his room. It was early morning. He was calling, Mom, Mom, Mom. And, you know, we're talking at this point in time, he's 14, 15 years old. Just barely really actually old enough to get any kind of job at all.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, look at this. And I looked, and from that south window, which was sealed shut, I mean, it had been sealed shut to where you could not open it anymore. You could not open it. There was just covering the bottom of the window, the window sill itself, the walls, his bed, which was right there on the south side, right next to that window. His bedpost were just hundreds and hundreds of black ants.
Infestation.
And I mean, they weren't there that one day. I mean, they weren't there the day before. They weren't there that night when he went to bed. But by the time he got up, his whole, I mean, the most of the wall and the windowsill and his bed were just covered with hundreds and hundreds of ants.
There's actually another possible sign of a demonic manifestation in that usually it's things like flies or things that are considered particularly nasty. For instance, Beelzebub is represented, or Lucifer or Satan in the Christian religion, is also representative of flies, but it's also possible that there could be other manifestation and infestations of insects that could be a telltale sign of demonic activity as well.
Well, again, it was creepy and it was freaky, and I'm not a bug person by any means. I don't have really anything against them as long as I stay outside.
Yeah. I've got kind of a thing against spiders myself. I don't like them. Well, so I took the spray, some bug spray that I had, and it was for, ants and I forget, there's all kinds of different kinds of insects and stuff. And I started spraying everything down, and those things stayed there. I mean, it was almost like it affected them to some extent, but I mean, a lot of them it just didn't really seem to affect at all. And they stayed there all throughout the day. They actually I never saw any like crawling up into the hallway or anything like that. And then by that night, they were gone. All of them. There was like maybe a stray one here and there, but for the most part, all of those hundreds of ants disappeared. Well, then the following year, he called me in again, and he was like, what in the world's going on with this room? I don't remember, my oldest son ever having this kind of problem. Well, same window, same situation, only this time it was like those, what they call box elder bugs. Yeah.
The whole area was infested with them.
Box elder beetles.
Yeah.
Huh.
Some people call them Democrat beetles. I don't know why. I mean, it's an old name, but I think they're actually called box elders.
They haven't voted yet. They're Republicans because they're red, but they haven't voted yet. They're Democrat beetles. It's a joke. It's funny though.
Well,
they used to say that.
But there were just hundreds of them. And again, it was the same situation. He went to bed that night, there was nothing in his room, nothing, and then he gets up and they're everywhere. And it was the same situation. I sprayed again. And again, same effect. It actually killed a lot more of them, but then by the end of the night, they were all gone.
Just as fast as they show up, they disappear.
Yeah, never came back ever again.
Did you guys have anything odd happen between the times that you found the insects and the time that you killed the insects, or either of the two times or after the two times that you found the insects infestation? Not really anything that was anything out of the ordinary. Other than the fact that my second husband, had become scary at times. As far as his obsessiveness with this Christian show and his it's really interesting that I just keep in the back of my mind somewhere. I know it's weird, but in the back of my mind somewhere, it's like it occurs to me that it seems like when somebody is flat out obsessively watching Christian programming and religious programming that something in their head has clicked into place, telling them that it's almost like a form of protection against something. You know?
Yeah. Well, and you got to remember, I mean, my second husband, yes, he believed in God. Yes, he had Christian-based beliefs. But he also had Native American beliefs. And for him, and when he and I first, got married, and before he started just really, really changing to where I became an evil demon, as what he would call me, he was more into his Native American beliefs.
Did your first husband, by chance, have any, obsession with religious or prayer or anything like that? I know you didn't have the internet back then, but did your first husband have any obsession like that with anything religious or prayer or anything of that nature?
Well, I knew that he was a believer in God and in Jesus, and I knew that, he would at times go to church with us. We would openly, talk about God and Jesus and the Bible and the stories in the Bible, and we would teach that stuff to our children, and so I'm not going to say that he was overboard with it, but he definitely had faith and belief, and he was openly a Christian. And a proud Christian. I mean, he was like, yeah, I'm a Christian. Yeah, I believe in God. I mean, he didn't fool around with it. Yeah, I believe. This is what I believe.
Yeah.
He didn't build it on people. He wasn't like, he was an ordinary Christian person.
Yeah. So not like obsessive like the second husband with it.
No. We would, like I said, in the 13, almost 14 years of marriage, we had discussions about God and Jesus and prayer, and we'd gone to church together with the kids. He wanted to make sure that all of the kids were baptized, saved.
Yeah.
He got to see two get saved. He got to see two of them, the older two, be saved and baptized in a non-denominational church. That was something we all agreed on. See, I was raised in one faith and belief, and he was raised in another faith and belief, and so we didn't do the arguing over whose faith was what. We just accepted each other's faith and belief, and then we went to non-denominational churches where all faiths were accepted.
Yeah.
All Christian faiths were accepted, and we were actually very much at peace and very much at comfort at that. That's where we were when it came to Christianity. My second husband, again, he'd been actually raised both ways. I mean, he had the Native American religion and beliefs, and he also had the Christian ones. And he had kind of, in order to make peace with himself, so that one wasn't fighting against the other, he kind of adopted one and then adopted the other different ways, and he just made peace with himself.
Yeah.
On that level. And because I was interested in the Native American beliefs and faith, he taught me that, and his family taught me that. And like I said, I kind of became more like him after a while. I found truth in both religions, and I found peace in both religions, so I combined the two.
Yeah.
And I had a lot. It was much more peaceful and much more comfortable in my soul. I mean, all the way to my very soul. One of the things that there was a third time in my youngest son's bedroom, same window. I'm thinking that was probably about 8 or 9 months later, and it was wintertime at that time. It was wintertime, and it really, really freaked me out. I mean, when the ants came in, I was thinking, okay, there's a rose bush out there, and maybe that's why they came in. The rose bush is right there, so maybe they just crawled from the rose bush on over to the window and into the house, into his room.
Yeah.
And it was the same with the box elders. I don't know a lot about those. I don't know what they eat, what they don't eat. But again, the rose bush was there. So I went ahead and I just blamed it on that.
They're
actually
a little
ridiculous.
The box elders and the ants are both scavengers. Well, you probably know about the ants. The box elders actually eat decaying organic material like leaves and decaying flowers, dead leaves, dead roots, dead tree bark, things like that, things of that nature.
Mhm.
Which is weird
because... And I thought about that. I thought, that rose bush, it was a thorny bush, and there was, on the inside of it, there was some dead wood, like rose stems and stuff like that. It was a bush.
Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But they're in your house, so...
Well, again, I mean... trying to make some logic sense of something that's just totally ridiculous and should not happen, kind of thing, you know? It's
I get it.
Really,
I get
it. But then we had actually had snow on the ground, and then it had defrosted and warmed up a little bit, and he called me into his room, and we had the same thing, ladybugs. Only this time it was ladybugs. Hundreds of ladybugs. Hundreds and hundreds of ladybugs. I couldn't believe it. And they were the biting kind.
Oh.
What had actually woke him up with, he was being bit.
That's not fun. Ladybugs in general, in spiritual belief, they're said to be more of a good, like a good luck kind of thing in mythology, but as an infestation, it could be something demonic in nature still, even so, or it could be something completely natural. But again, why are they in your house? Why would they have the desire to come in? So, I mean,
and it's
I don't
cold
know.
outside. I mean,
that's weird.
I had trouble with that one. I still have trouble with that one, trying to figure out what the deal was with it. Eventually what I ended up doing is I put all kinds of stuff. I cut that whole rose bush completely away from the house, completely away from, I cut all the dead out from the middle, and trimmed it all down, and I don't know, it stopped. I didn't have any more issues with it, and neither did he. Now, when we first moved to that house, we spent an entire winter there, and we never saw any signs of mice or rats or bugs or anything. Nothing in this house, absolutely nothing. We didn't even have spiders. I mean, nothing. We had no issues with any kind of creepy crawlers anywhere in this house. But the following year, I'm thinking that it was, we were watching the Miss America contest, and I can't remember what time of the year it was for the life of me. I do remember my daughter had come home from school. Her friends were talking about the Miss America contest, and it was on TV, and she was wanting to watch it. By golly, Mom, please, when we watched it. And so I sat down and we were watching this with her, and we got into about 5 or 10 minutes of the show, and I started hearing something really scratching under the sink in my kitchen. And it was one of those things, you know, where I don't have any animals in this house, and something scratching, it sounded like an animal scratching on my kitchen cupboard.
Probably not good.
So I looked up underneath there, and there's like a mouse.
One mouse?
So one mouse. It was just one mouse. I saw one mouse. And I'm thinking, you know, at the time when I saw the mouse, you know, we're living on the outskirts of town. This was actually, you know, our second winter here. And I'm thinking it might have been cold. I just honestly, I can't remember the time of year, but you know, it was 1997, and the Miss America contest was been broadcasted, and that's what I remember the most about that time period.
Yeah.
I was going through a divorce. I was dealing with a lot of, you know, trying to find a job, because I had been working for a part-time agency, and the money they were paying me wasn't enough to really support my family. And so there was a lot of stuff going on other than that, you know, that for some reason I just can't remember what time of the year it was. Anyway, we had some old mouse traps.
Yeah.
And I set them up with some peanut butter underneath the sink, and I heard snap. And a few seconds later, I heard snap.
Oh.
So I put them in an old coffee canister and was getting ready to throw them out. And I was still hearing scurrying. So I grabbed a couple of more mouse traps, and I set them up with peanut butter. So I had like 4 traps. And then I found, I don't know, whoever lived in the house before us, I found these old what they call sticky mouse traps, you know, like sticky tape kind of ones. They say they're supposed to be more humane.
Sorry, 10 o'clock alarm. Made me jump.
So, so anyway, I had these sticky mouse traps that were supposed to be more humane, and so I pulled those out and stuck those down there. Now, I had a coffee can. It was just a regular size, large coffee can, tin one. And it had a sealed lid on it. And by the first hour to 2 hours, I had halfway filled that coffee can.
Wow.
With wood mice. And the sticky traps, they worked good once, but that poor mouse was alive. And I couldn't.
They're not very humane. At least
well, they
with
had
a
said,
spring-loaded
that we're
mouse
supposed
trap.
to be so much more humane, but I didn't find them to be that. I thought that was horrific.
Yeah. They basically get stuck down and they starve to death, more or less. Those spring-loaded ones are actually more humane in my opinion, honest opinion, because they basically snap down on their neck and basically sever their spine, which basically stops their heart immediately, and they die. Breaks their neck.
Yeah, well, let's just say I will never use them again. I will never use them again. And I used them that one time because I had I had two of them, and the sound of the scurry, and it sounded like there was quite a few, and they were coming up from somewhere up there. I was suspecting underneath the house in the drain pipe.
Maybe.
Where the drain pipe goes down.
Like the gutter pipe?
Well, where the sink drains down, you have that drain pipe that comes down, and then there's a hole, and...
Old house.
And it goes down and connects up underneath the house, kind of...
So from underneath the house?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I literally did. I filled up an entire coffee can before it started slowing down, and I would hear only, one mouse trap.
So another random infestation of random pests,
Mice. Well, of course, when you've got something like that going on.
Wait, you said this was earlier. This was
the second year that I lived in the house.
So that was the
first. And I'm thinking it was
infestation.
It had to have been getting cold. I was thinking, I think that's, like I said, when I saw the first mouse, I thought, well, it's starting to get cold. It's starting to get, so it didn't really bother me that, okay, I've got a mouse. I lived on the outskirts of town. There's wheat fields, within a couple of blocks of me, Okay, I didn't have mice the first year, but obviously I have mice now, so, but it wasn't until it was snap after snap after snap, and I was filling up this coffee can, halfway full, and the Miss America contest was still going on. And I actually didn't get to watch it because I kept getting up to reset the traps. And
you sit down. Oh, snap. Okay.
Then I went out the next day, and I went over to one of the local hardware stores, and I bought some, I think it's called mouse clay.
Oh, yeah. It uses Coumadin. It's a blood thinner.
Yeah, and I started sticking that. I stuck, places where my littlest son couldn't get a hold of it.
Yeah.
I stuck it all over in the bedrooms, under the sink, any place, under the stove, refrigerators, behind them, areas where I knew my son wouldn't go, for the pantry and the kitchen. I didn't really worry too much about the indoor patio or the garage. I was mostly concerned about the house. And all of that stuff was gone within 24 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, it was all gone within 24 hours.
What
I went back to check on it.
What I find
and
weird
I never
about
did
that
see it
is the fact that in all of these cases, these infestations, they just suddenly came on.
Yeah.
Just,
and usually at night.
Yeah.
Or in the evening hour.
That too.
And then they were just suddenly gone.
It's really weird.
And what was really even odder was there was no, like, when you've got a mouse infestation, you're going to see mouse droppings, and it's going to smell stinky,
shredded paper, stuff like that, nests.
And you're going to see. And there was nothing like that. There was nothing like that. And they came and they disappeared within 24 hours.
Just like the bugs.
The following year, I went out and I bought some more of that stuff because I thought, okay, it's going to start getting cold again, so I'm going to stock up on this stuff. And it never happened. I didn't have to use it.
That's also weird.
And then after that, you know, occasionally we would get a mouse. One. And I put that clay stuff out, and that would be the last one I would see. And it would have just a little bit of it gone. So I never had that happen again. No infestation like that. I have no idea why. Like I said, I wish to God I could remember what time of the year it was, just simply because, I mean, it doesn't make sense to have that many mice in your house in the first place, but coming into your house,
just one.
Right, I mean, if it was getting cold or something, you know, I'll have to see if I can find out when that Miss America contest was going on in that year. Maybe that'll give me more of a time period.
Something of a reference. Yeah, for sure.
But that really did freak me out. I'm not a mouse person. I do think they're kind of cute. Don't get me wrong, but not in my house.
Yeah. I mean, better than spiders, right? I mean, old houses have a few of those.
You know, I'm not against people having, you know, those kind of animals as pets.
Yeah, but
I just don't want the wild ones coming into my house.
Yeah, I totally understand.
I mean, I personally think snakes are adorable. I had the opportunity to work with snakes and mice and stuff at a
I don't mind snakes, and I mean, I'll be honest with you, I don't actually mind spiders too much, as long as they're not poisonous. You know, the kind that bite and leave huge open gaping sores on people and cause infection and that, and rot away your flesh and stuff like that.
I worked with tarantulas, and I worked with spiders and mice and rats and hamsters. And, I didn't have a problem with them at all. The one tarantula was, I think they called it a rosette, a rose spider. It was pink.
Like a pet shop type job?
Yeah, it was a pet shop job. And I did some volunteer work over there, just working with pets and dogs and spiders and animals. I mean, I love animals. So the opportunity to do a little bit of volunteer time over there was pretty cool.
I also love animals. That's one thing for sure. I definitely have that in common. Yeah. So, back to the later, the 2000, would you say it was 2008, 2009, that where the ladybug infestation and that after that happened?
Well, after that happened, the main issues that I was having trouble with was the behavior of my second husband. He had started becoming to the point where I was actually becoming afraid for both myself and my son's life. His actions and behaviors were really getting odd, and his anger and threatening aggression was way more than I was willing to deal with from anybody for any reason. And that was toward the end of 2008, and I had tried to get him to, let's go do some marriage counseling, let's go do some counseling of some sort, and nope, wasn't going to have anything to do with that. And eventually I was like, he started in on me one day about how evil and horrible and what a demon I was. And I told him to get out and don't come back. And I wasn't going to deal with that. And I wasn't going to, my children and I had gone through enough stuff at this point in time that whatever was going on with him, I didn't know if it was the house affecting him. I didn't know if there was some kind of mental illness that had started manifesting itself. I didn't know what was going on with him, but he was refusing help of any kind, as far as seeing a counselor or anything else like that. And I wasn't willing to deal with it. I really wasn't. I wasn't willing to put myself and my kids through that. It was way too much for anybody to have to deal with. So out the door he went, and then the next day I packed all of his stuff. Out the door it went. Called him, called the police, did the whole, he's here, he's coming to get this.
Civil standby.
He's not been very, the basic civil standby. He got his stuff, and he was gone. I never saw him again.
Yeah.
But things started getting really, really bad after that. My children's father, he had been out of the picture for all these years. And we found out through the grapevine that he had gotten very, very sick. And they said that he was going to die. And he was in a hospital not far from us, in a bigger city. And so all of my kids went to go see him. I'm not going to say what was going on with him, but it was terminal.
Yeah.
And they had him on life support. We were ready for him to go. Well, he didn't go when they took the life support off of him. He actually, after 3 days of being on it, he pulled right out of it. But it was not without a lot of damage that had been done to his heart, his kidneys, his liver. different vital organs. And so he had to be put on a bunch of medication to just to keep him going. And he had a girlfriend that he had been living with in a different town. And she was, according to him, taking care of him. I stayed away from him. I really didn't want anything to do with him. He had developed over that short period of time, you know, my older children talked to him and you know, was trying to redevelop a relationship with him. And my youngest one was kind of, I really don't know him, you know, because he was 18, not quite 2 years old.
Yeah.
When he left. And my middle son was like, well, he's alive and he's going to be all right. It looks like, as long as he keeps his medicine, and that's good enough for me.
Yeah.
And I let my kids all make their decision. I never tried to influence one way or the other with my kids. I gave them the honest to God truth about their dad and let them make their decisions, because by that time they were, you know, they were pretty much old. I mean, they were old enough. They were some of them were in their early 20s and a little bit mid-20s. And the youngest one, he was, I'm trying to think, 14, 15 years old. Something like that, maybe not quite 16. And so I just left it alone at that. A few months later, he was driving down the road and he was killed in a car wreck. We still don't really know what exactly happened, except for some reason he lost control of the vehicle and he rolled and he died. We had a funeral. I made sure that he was given a proper funeral, out of respect. He had been my husband for 14 years. He was the father of all 4 of my children, regardless. He had served in the military proudly, and I was going to see to it that he had a proper military, respectful funeral. And he got one. And that was in 2009.
We're going to go ahead and end this episode here, and we're going to start a new one. I'm going to go ahead and talk to my audience here right quick. Guys, if you're liking these long kind of trilogies here that we're doing of people's hauntings and their stories about their haunting experiences, then please feel free to hit subscribe and hit like on the videos, and leave us a comment down below and let us know if there's anything that you think that we should improve, or what your thoughts are on these. Be sure to subscribe to the channel to see more videos that we do and that we've done. Troy Boy is officially a manager of the channel as well, and he is able to upload as well on his own. If you would like to have your story featured on 85 Studios YouTube, be sure to hit us up on Facebook at facebook.com/85studios1, or on Twitter and send us a direct message at 85 Studios YouTube and send us a direct message. Thank you all so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one.